Hey everyone, I'm Annalea Krebs, and as Alex was sharing, I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm 3 businesses in and 15 years in. So it has been a wild ride. And I wanted to share a little bit of the trials and tribulations with you all today, as I find that it's so much more important to talk about the failures and the mistakes than the successes. And most successful entrepreneurs have a ton of failures and mistakes behind them. So I only have about 7 to 10 minutes today, so I'll share a few, but feel free to grab me afterwards and we can keep chatting. So before I dive into 15 years of building, I wanted to share my wellness routine before and after becoming an entrepreneur. As things have changed, in many ways for the better, as you can see. About the only thing that is constant is my love for yoga, but everything else I have had to stack up. And really the theme across a lot of these is mental health, as well as more time, and really protecting the things that matter to me, like 8 hours of sleep a day. And this is really my playbook for having survived 15 years of entrepreneurship and 3 businesses. I wasn't always this good about my wellness routine, I will admit. The first business, I didn't take a vacation for 5 years, so I did learn the hard way. But these are my non-negotiables, and this has really become my routine that keeps me sane. So what else has driven me for 15 years? My purpose. I am a purpose-driven entrepreneur. This is, really what gets me out of bed every morning, is to improve the health of our people and our planet for the better, one purchase at a time. And I really believe that everyday choices add up to big change. It's exciting to change consumer shopping habits for the better and see people making positive, healthy, more sustainable choices. We get to do that every day with my current company, Social Nature. And I get such a kick out of reducing the barriers for consumers. There's, price, education, trust, convenience, all these things get in the way of us making healthier, more sustainable choices. So through the 3 businesses that I've had over the last 15 years, I've tried to tackle this problem in 3 different ways. I like to think we're getting better. Certainly we are growing our impact, and we've worked with millions of consumers over the last 15 years across North America and thousands of brands. So I want to take you through my 15 years, 5 years at a time. And really the journey starts in 2010. I was age 25, right out of school. And it started with a business called thechange.com. And thechange.com was like a local green online business directory and social network for consumers that were interested in, changing the world for the better. It really started as a passion project out of school. And for the first year, I painstakingly, interviewed the founders of these local green businesses across Canada, and I created their profiles for them. I was doing everything for them, trying to create content so that I could attract the other side of the marketplace, which was the consumers. The old chicken and egg challenge. And so, I had all these profiles of all these local green businesses across Canada, and I surely thought, after a year of providing them with free exposure and all the blood, sweat, and tears I had poured into their beautiful profiles, that they would cough up a few bucks when I came asking. And so a year later, I said, hey, would you pay a couple $100 per month, to continue to advertise your business on The Change? And they said no. I said, sorry, what? Literally, I'd interviewed, video interviewed these founders. I'd built a relationship with these people. I thought they had a great relationship, so why wasn't that translating into cold hard cash? And so I learned, a hard lesson, which was do not provide services for free. The best way is to ask the customer to pay for something as early as possible, and you will really find out what their real pain point is. Because when I finally picked myself up off the floor and said, okay, what will you pay for? They said, send me customers through my doors. Should have asked that from day one. And it was quite simple. And so I pivoted the company, and I took the thousands of profiles that I had on thechange.com for these local green businesses, and I turned it into what became the leading green daily deal site. Some of you may have used it. It was around from 2010 to 2015 before I sold it. But Ethical Deal was like a green Groupon, which introduced people to the greener choices in their city at 50% off, right? So we would drive consumers into these vegan restaurants and organic bakeries and personal training, yoga gyms, and all these places, and delivered on that promise, delivered on that pain point, gave them their qualified customer through their doors, and they loved it. And I sold the business 5 years later. So the next era, if you will, was Ethical Deal to Social Nature. And so Ethical Deal really inspired my next venture. When I think back about what were the most popular requests for green daily deals, it wasn't actually the vegan restaurants, the organic spas, the personal trainers. It was, what about healthy choices for my groceries? What about the things I eat for breakfast, the things I put on my skin, the things I clean my house with? This is what people always wanted from Ethical Deal. And then I also thought back, okay, what else was successful about Ethical Deal? And our Refer a Friend program was the number one way that we acquired users. I barely spent any money on acquiring users. It was all the Refer a Friend program. And so people like to share good stuff. That's another thing I learned. So I kind of took those two things after I was, retired after my Ethical Deal acquisition, and I said, what can I do with this? And that sparked the idea for Social Nature, which is my current business that I've been at for 10 years. And Social Nature is an online natural product discovery platform that is focused on introducing people to healthy, natural, non-toxic, sustainable groceries, i.e. anything that you would find at a Whole Foods grocery store. But you get it to try it for free or at a discount in exchange for your online product review. So we're active across North America. We have many users, many customers. We'll get more into that later. But this is really what sparked the idea for the next venture. I learned a lot through this period of time. This was where I raised my first capital. Ethical Deal had been bootstrapped. So Social Nature was my first business that I actually went out to investors and did that whole thing. I also, went to hire my first VP sales from a big flashy company. I did a lot in those 5 years, grew my team. And there's been lots of mistakes there. But what I really want to focus on with you today is the transition from founder to CEO, because that was probably one of the hardest transitions I went through. And keep in mind, this was my second business. But it was really, with the extra pressure of having investors, having VPs from flashy companies, having a bigger growing team, being active in 2 countries, I felt such immense pressure to not fail. And so what was my response? Control. I sought control to manage my fear of failure. And so 5 years in, 2020, of running Social Nature, I had my first 360-degree review. We did it across the company. Everybody had a performance review from their peers and teammates. And people told me I was a micromanager. And it was really hard to hear, still is. And it was really hard to change because, again, what was feeding that control was my fear of failure. And so the first thing I did was talk to my entrepreneurship peers and said, how did you deal with this? And everybody said, go get an executive coach. So I did. And I worked with that executive coach for a number of years. And one of the most important takeaways they shared with me, which I'll share with you today, was the difference between managing expectations and setting clear agreements. And so I would often find myself having expectations that I wouldn't clearly communicate to people, which was not fair to the person. And it would generally mean that I was left disappointed, or even if they ended up delivering on what I asked them to do, I'd be like, well, yeah, of course, you should have done it. So it was a no win-win solution or situation. And so clear agreements, my coach told me, was really where you get, mutual commitment, buy-in, and you have someone participating with you around the goal that you're setting. So for example, let's say you have a sales target. Instead of imposing that sales target on your VP sales, you say, hey, do you think this quarterly target is achievable? And if they say no, you say, what are the support and resources that you need in order to make this happen? Then they have buy-in. Then they're part of building the solution. And now you have, much more commitment to that target or goal than you had you imposed that target on them without them having any say. So I found that simple tweak really helped empower my team, helped me let go, because I knew that I could count on my team to deliver on the mutual agreement that we had. And we had a clear way of checking in, measuring progress, and ultimately they were also more accountable to the outcome. So that was a game changer. The second thing I did with my team was I developed a set of leadership principles. And you may have heard from, Amazon's pretty famous for developing leadership principles. But we certainly developed our own. And these are not just, values written on the wall. In fact, for a long time, I resisted putting them on the wall because I didn't want that reference in my mind. These were meant to be actionable leadership principles that I could hear in people's conversation. So, when I would hear my team talking about making it happen, which is one of our leadership principles, I would love hearing that in conversation. Or keeping it real is another one of our leadership principles. And so I tried, with my team, making these actionable phrases that really guided people's day-to-day decision-making, actions. It gave them a frame of reference, which ultimately, again, empowered my team because they had these principles to kind of live by. And we incorporated them into our 360 degrees. Degrees sounds horrible, but anyways, our 360 performance reviews, into our hiring process. We built interview questions that, got under, how did you make it happen in your last company and so forth. And this has really been a very powerful framework that we continue to use today. So the third era, 2020 to 2025. So I'm still working on growing and scaling Social Nature. And to give you a sense, in 2021, we hit about 1 million users across North America that were using socialnature.com's platform. Most of our user base is actually in the United States, although we're headquartered here. We had the privilege of working with about 600 natural and organic brands that you probably recognize, Bob's Red Mill, Vega, Larabar, to name a few. And they would use us for targeted trial, acquiring new customers, and consumer insights. So we had this million-plus focus group of consumers that they could target and gain trial and insights from. And so for a long time, we thought we were doing really well. We were kind of in that 5 to 10 million mark back in 2021. We had all these users, we had all these brands, and there was always demand. We always had users signing up. We always had customers knocking on our door. But what we didn't have, unlike JNapp, was strong retention. And so my first mistake was believing that high demand equals product market fit. And it can be really easy to be fooled when you have this constant stream of customers and users signing up. But when you looked under the hood, they weren't sticking around. And it was interesting because I would talk to other tech founders, some of whom are behind some of the biggest Canadian tech exits. And literally they had roughly around the same revenue as me, roughly the same growth rates as me. But one thing was different. Their retention rates were much higher than mine. And so I knew something needed to change. And I didn't want to start another business. I needed to figure this out within Social Nature. And so the first change that we did as a team was, how can we become a habit for our customers and our users? Customers were using us for new product launches, which happen a couple times a year, but they weren't using us on a monthly basis. So we talked to many of them and said, what else are you doing when you're not using us? And of course, they were doing all sorts of things. They were doing in-store demos. They were doing influencer marketing. They were doing digital ads. They're doing all sorts of things. So we put our heads together and we figured out a white label solution that they could use when, outside of the community that we have, to ultimately convert all of their digital marketing into in-store sales using our digital rebate technology. So that was one unlock. The second unlock, and Jane App also spoke about this, was finding, really focusing on your ICP. We were ultimately letting everybody through our doors. That was a mistake, right? We had this 1 million+ user base, users constantly signing up, and often for free, like organic search engine traffic, referral traffic, but they weren't really the most qualified user that would continue to buy the products that were on our platform. And so we developed our ICP for our user. We developed an ICP for our brands. We said no. We started saying no to business, which we had never done. But when we said no, we got higher retention. And the third was a cultural shift. And that was, with our product and engineering team, when they consider how to build new features, it has to be a win-win. It has to be a win for the consumer, and it has to be a win for the brand. And really that has helped us develop a better experience for our customers, for our users. And I think this year we will have our best retention rates yet, and hopefully be another one of Canada's successful tech stories soon. All right, 3 questions. Sure.
I love this idea of not letting everyone through the doors, but how do you know someone's not a good fit?
How do we know? So we had a couple things there. One, because we were really focused on building a habit with our users and our customers. We, on the user side, knew that we didn't just want people that were in it to, save money on natural and free products. We wanted people that were genuinely interested in discovery and truly making a switch to healthier natural products. So that meant that we tapped a little bit more into influencers that had an audience of health-minded followers, or we tailored our ads to be less savings focused and more better for you product focused. So we kind of appealed to what that user was looking for and ended up finding more of that user. They were more expensive. So that also meant that we really needed to focus our UX to increase the lifetime value of that user and make sure they got into as many campaigns as possible. Yes?
Hi. You mentioned your routine went from very bare bones to having this huge structure of things that all sorts of stuff. When you look back on it, was there a particular thing that you spent time on that you no longer spend time on to make room for that, or did you feel it kind of things that you do now you were able to work into really easily, or did you have to find things you had to reduce your time spent in to make room for that, or?
I definitely I watch less TV than I ever did before. I will say that. I think it's just I'm very intentional with where I spend my time. I also have really kind of integrated into a bit of our workplace culture. So one of our former VPs used to host Monday meditations, or we do meditation breaks throughout our town halls, or we have personal days, which we encourage people to use as wellness days. I personally use my personal days to do an extended long weekend every quarter and take that retreat, and I'll talk about it in Slack, and encourage other people to use it. So just integrating it a little bit more into my work. I'll go for a lunch hour yoga, right? Sometimes I'm too tired at the end of the day, so I'll work it into the middle of the day. Things like that. We do, outdoor activities as a team, when we do team events. It's just, when you integrate it into your life, it fits a little more seamlessly. Did you still have the question?
I did. Given the current climate, and this is maybe not appropriate for the technology side of things, but your business, there's a lot of pivoting right now in Canada and the US. How are you looking at the pivoting here, or what are some of the things that you see coming in that you have concerns
Yeah, I mean, the tariffs are one that will impact our customers who are manufacturers of consumer packaged goods products. I think it was helpful for us and very early to expand internationally. So in our first year, we went into the US. So we do have both US clients and Canadian clients, which is helpful. We also work with all sorts of products, from beauty products to cleaning products to food products, and each of those categories has different margins. So we have a pretty diversified portfolio of customers, which is helpful. Also, spending ranges from $500,000 to $100,000 to $50,000 to $5,000. So it's diversified that way as well. We are looking to do a self-serve solution by end of this year to appeal to customers that have budget constraints that can't afford the higher ends of that service. So we are adapting that way. Ultimately, you just kind of got to meet your customer where they are. So I'm going to be heading to one of the biggest trade shows in California next week. My entire time there is, spending time with our customers and understanding how I can help them better.
I'll see you at CHFA.
I will see you at CHFA. Yes.
Get a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone.